Hello, hi, my name is Kendall Gender, and I am at the Rainbow Refugee community space. Today, we are taking a special peek inside the people behind Rainbow Refugee. For those of you that don't know, Rainbow Refugee is a Vancouver-based organization with the mission and vision of promoting safer, equitable migration and communities of belonging for people fleeing persecution based on their sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, sex characteristic, and HIV status. Rainbow Refugee has a lot of programs like the private sponsorship, the Inland, the Time to Thrive, and Education and Advocacy program. Today we'll be speaking to Aleks Dughman Manzur, the co-executive director, and Chris Morrissey, the co-founder of Rainbow Refugee. So, Chris, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background and what led you to start Rainbow Refugee?
Oh, well, that's a story, of course. Many years ago, I came back from having worked in Santiago, Chile, with my partner, and she was not Canadian, and the Canadian government wouldn't give her permanent residence. And so we ended up taking the Minister of Immigration and the Queen of Canada to court in order to eventually get the legislation changed so that now Canada recognizes same-sex partners as family, which was our goal. Then the internet appeared, and so we had a website, and people began contacting us by email, people from all over the world, from different countries, people that were experiencing persecution because of who they were and where they lived. And so Rob Hughes, who was our lawyer at the time, and I decided that we needed to see if we could respond somehow. And so we invited community members to come together meeting in his office. And in his office, when we had that meeting, we were surprised to see that the majority of people who turned up were people who had managed to get to Canada somehow and who wanted to be able to stay because they were afraid to go back to their home countries. And so Rob and I said, well, it looks like this is where we need to start. And so we began holding drop-ins for these folks to come and learn about how they could stay in Canada and go through a successful refugee process here. And so we started with half a dozen of us as volunteers, and every year we grew and grew and grew and grew.
Aleks, what drew you to this kind of work and what keeps you inspired?
Well, thank you for that question. I come from a long family history of displacement and migration. And once I came to Canada, that's back in 2008, and I was in Toronto, and a lot of my friends were racialized folks in Toronto who actually had also stories of displacements and migration and people who were fleeing persecution based on their gender identity and sexual orientation. I am a Chilean lawyer and I've done human rights work extensively around that, and I was looking at the ways in which I could make myself useful to the community, and I thought here is a place where I can use my knowledge and also my service to provide a space where people can develop communities of belonging, but also to facilitate the ways in which people can leave their countries if their countries is no longer providing them with a space where they can grow and continue their journey and have that opportunity here in Canada. It was very, very important for me as I was transitioning to be in a space where that was allowed, where it was covered, but also where I felt that I had a community of safety to be able to go through that process. So the opportunity and the ability to assist others in their journey so that they can accomplish that for themselves, so that they can have a full life, so that they can continue with their life plans, so that they can become whoever they want to be. And especially for trans people, that they can have adulthood and actually live until older years and become mentors and elders in their community is what really drives me into this work. I believe it is a way to facilitate others in their power, to empower them in their own journey, and to give them the tools to be able to continue to be a contribution to their lives, but also to the lives of others.
This question is for both of you. What have been some of the most beautiful ways that Rainbow Refugee has impacted the local Vancouver community and beyond?
Well, in terms of the local community, I think one of the things that we have contributed here is to have amazing people who have come from all over the world with incredible gifts and with amazing spirits to contribute to the life of the queer community here in Vancouver. I think the other thing that we've done locally is through our sponsorship program, we've formed circles. Probably I think we have about 40 circles that are currently operating. Each of those circles has 7 or 8 members, which means over the last 10, 12 years since we've been doing sponsorship, we've had probably around 500 people from the local community, queers and straights, who have participated in this process of sponsoring and so have learned a lot more about what it means to be refugees and the responsibility that we have as Canadians to actually see beyond our borders. So I think that's been a big contribution that we've made locally.
Well, as Chris mentioned, we have done a lot of beautiful work here in Vancouver, engaging the community in the work that we do. But we also have over 25 communities across Canada who get engaged in private sponsorship, which means that not only here in Vancouver, but all across Canada, they have access to the Rainbow Refugee Assistance Partnership to be able to privately sponsor LGBTQ refugees. And at an international level, we get asked many times to be part of Canadian delegations, for instance, to go to the United Nations agencies for refugees and talk about the importance of increasing spaces for LGBTQI refugees and protecting LGBTQI refugees from persecution. And at the same time, we also provide education and training for organizations about how they can be more inclusive and provide services. So we pretty much impact at a micro level and also at a macro level with systemic changes in conversations with government and in providing education.
How do you see the journey continuing for Rainbow Refugee? And what would you like to say to your present and future donors?
Well, I see the journey continuing along the same lines as we have. It's really important that people know that there are alternate pathways to find ways to safety. And so that's a big part of what we do. I think it's also continues to be important that we provide this safe space for people to come and to participate, to get to know each other, to make friends, to provide support for each other during this long and sometimes arduous process. And I have one other long-term dream for the future, which is I want us to have some short-term housing so that when people arrive and they have no place to stay, we have a place that we can offer, at least for a short time until they get their feet on the ground and find their wings and are able to find appropriate, reasonable, and decent housing for them to be able to continue their life in Vancouver.
To the donors, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the support that you have already provided to Rainbow Refugee and for the support that you will continue to provide us. It has been so important to have you on our side so that we are able to do the work and continue to do the work. Now, in order to continue our journey together, we do need more financial stability. So having monthly donors really is going to get us to a place where we don't have to worry about where our resources come in while we're trying to do the work that is sustainable and that will allow us to expand our services and also expand the amount of people that we're able to serve or sponsor into Canada. So I do really appreciate what you have done, and I'm asking you today to make a commitment to us that is in the long term will allow that stability so that we can fulfill the dreams that Chris was mentioning as about having housing for people, but also other dreams that we have around maybe at one point not even needing our services because LGBTQ refugees are safe around the world.
Well, folks, there you have it. The Journey Continues is the name of Rainbow Refugee's summer fundraising campaign to increase their monthly donors. Head over to rainbowrefugee.com to be a part of the change today.